preach on email marketing, so take a lot of notes. This is good.
I'm a very special guest, but she was
You're
crazy
very
enough to ask me to
special.
come out and talk, so. Hi, guys!
All right, take it
Hi,
away.
Pat.
Thanks for coming out to hang out on the email side, but I'm going to dabble a little bit as far as this presentation goes. We're going to get a little bit into some website stuff. We're going to get a little bit into some social stuff, but definitely a lot of it's going to have that email core to it. So that's why you see kind of the online marketing tactics. And really my goal of all of this too is to get into the tactics of this. It's not just a high level, you know, hey, here's some things that you should hopefully think about. It's really giving you some stuff to hopefully take to heart and to really dig into. One thing that I saw that Angela didn't point out, if you want to look to your left and you do want to get in the tweet game here with us, so feel free to tweet some stuff at or including UNIDEV. Find them on Facebook at facebook.com/UNIDEV if you want to check in there. I know they also have a speaker series page, which is what we're at here today. For me, you can find me at MV_Pat, and if you do want to do any live tweets or anything today, if you're looking at your phone, as long as you pretend like you're tweeting, that's awesome. But feel free to use the hashtag MVSeminar. It's kind of a great, easy way for us to sort of collect all of those tweets into one place for those who aren't uber Twitter savvy, and then you guys can kind of track those down and some of that information out there later. So with that, let me kind of dig in. Let me get a better idea of sort of who we have here and some of what your guys' basis is. So how many of you guys are business owners out of the group? All right, so pretty good number of y'all. How many people in sales? Which might be some of the business owners, but others as well. Have a website? Should be all of you, I hope, in some capacity or another. Use social media for work. Okay. And have an email newsletter. Eyes on all that group. Okay. Now how about, whoa, where'd I go? How many of you have a marketing plan? An actual written marketing plan, not one in your head. All right, so written marketing plan.
Does a mind map count?
Sort of. You're like halfway there. Halfway there. How many of you change your website content on a, we'll call it, fairly regular basis? Not a site that you put up that hasn't been touched in 6 months to 12 years. Okay. How many of you use targeted prospect lists? All right.
Have used it.
All right.
For email or for
just in
mail?
general.
Okay.
Just in general. How about targeted client lists? All right. This is the part where I make sure you're staying awake. And then how many of you automate any part of your sales process? Okay. So these, and the reason I'm digging into some of these, obviously the first set of 5 were ones that a lot of you are included, and it gives me an idea of who's in the room. This last set is some stuff that we're going to start to touch on a little bit, you know, and how email and other tools online can help you in a lot of these processes. So that's really where I want to dig into. Please feel free. In a bigger group, I tend not to do this as much, but in a smaller group, if you have questions, throw them at me, literally or figuratively, because I want to make sure we're addressing those and kind of getting that stuff out of the way as we get cranking here. So what we're really here to talk about is 4 key things: attraction, engagement, conversion, and maximization. So those things around your prospects, your business, what's happening online with your social media world, with your website world, and with your email world. And so let's dig in here, because I've only got an hour and I can talk for 3 on this, and Sarah knows that. She's with MarketVolt as well. It was nice enough to come hang out with me today. So thanks, Sarah. I think it was because you wanted to get rid of the kids, right? Little time away from the kids? I understand, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. All right, so number 1, attract. Attract new leads with valuable offers and content such as webinars, ebooks, white papers, and giveaways. So here's an example of a company. So there's a company here in St. Louis, I think they're even down here in the valley somewhere, called Biz Library. So Biz Library has a team that puts together value-add, informative, educational content that they put out new every day. Every day there's new information that goes on their website. And you're like, wow, how big is that team? That must be an amazing group of people that are, you know, videos and ebooks and blogs and white papers, and it's 3 people. They have a team of 3 people that, let me figure out the number. So we actually had Chris Osborne as their director of marketing over there, and he's a good friend of MarketVolt, and we actually had him out at the American Marketing Association last year. And at that time, he was talking about his numbers from last year, and his team of 3, through the content that they create and put out on their website on literally a daily basis, and what they shoot for is somewhere between 4 and 6 new pieces of content per day, okay, with a team of 3. In the first 6 months of last year, and I haven't talked to him lately to see what those numbers look like in 2014, but in 2013, from January until June, which was when he had his numbers for, they had generated 66,000 new leads through their website. Because what ends up happening, and really where all this plays, is as we're putting that new content out on our page, the lovely Google machine that we all know, love, and or hate, depending on your role and how you perceive it all, finds and loves new content. And so as we're putting more new information out there, it's finding it and it's bringing people to our page. And when they do that, and here's the key to it, because here's the challenge that happens. So many companies do this. They put new content, they put the value add, they have that information out there, and then they sit by the phone because they have contact us, call me, and they go, oh, people found it, they're gonna call me, right? Maybe, but here's the thing that we should be doing. So I've got an example of what they do at Biz Library. And they actually used to do, for each one of them, you just had to register for that individual piece, and they would give you access to that piece. You could then download that ebook, or you could watch that video, or whatever that might be. What they started doing recently is, if you find a piece that you like, you can register, and they'll actually give you access to their entire platform for 30 days. So what they're doing, and the key to this is, they're asking for an engagement without asking for the sale. They're giving people an opportunity to opt in. Okay, so they're just saying, hey, give me some more. This is something I'm interested in. I don't want to have to pick up the phone. I'm not in buying mode necessarily, but it's going to be really hard for me as the person who's running the website or in charge of that marketing or trying to grow the business. It's hard for me to sell to an IP address. Because SEO is great to get them there. The problem is now we have to be able to take and do something with that. So attracting is key. All right, it's one of the big things we have to do. And Chris gave us. Go ahead.
They're a subscription service, basically.
So they are. They what they do. And actually, here's a quick quote from Chris. The important thing to remember is that the content they're providing is instructional content. People can get HR certification credits. They're not sales pitches. So the stuff they're putting out there is value add. But ultimately, they're in management training, HR training. They're getting people to enroll to get these courses in this catalog. So it's really diving in and really getting that information out there to bring people to them. And those people are the people that are searching for that kind of information, which are people they ultimately want to talk to. So number 2, engaging. All right? Engaging prospects with personalized content, but more important, targeted content. So as a great example, so one of our customers, Fontbonne University, they've got a really cool program. So think back to the college days, or even more so, the late high school days when you're a junior, senior in high school, and what started happening then. Now, for some of you, that meant like C-scrolls coming. For others of us, it was the mail that came, by Pony or whatever. I'm aging a few of you out there. What actually Fontbonne has started to do, is, and I think back, I was blessed in that I had a pretty good ACT score, so I made it on lots of people's radars, and literally my senior year, we put a cardboard box underneath the phone, because in the mail, you would get the mail like this, and my mom and dad would bring it in and drop it on the table, and I like that one, nope, I like that one, nope, and that's how I would go through the mail. But they had no idea really what I liked, what I was interested in. All they knew was I had an ACT score and that my name was Pat. And in fact, Pat was a guy or girl, so I got some Miss Pat Hawns and some Mr. Pat Hawns, for that matter. The misses, by the way, went in the junk pile. But personalization. So what Fontbonne actually started to do is on their website, students or parents of students who are interested in their programs can go to their page and fill out some basic information. Here's my name, here's my high school, here's my anticipated graduation date, phone number, some of that sort of stuff. And what the most important part of this is they start to ask them, what kinds of programs are you interested in? What 1 or 2 or 3 of the degree programs that we offer, and what 1 or 2 or 3 of the extracurricular programs that we offer are you interested in? Now here's what happens. So that information gathers and it feeds into their system. And now sitting in MarketVolt is this email. Now the fun thing about this email is it actually goes probably down to about the first floor of this building, if you actually looked at it in scale. It has every single one of those program majors and every single one of those extracurriculars is all listed in this email. Now we've got a cool little tool called Dynamic Content, and it does this. As that information goes from their system into MarketVolt automatically every night, it brings that information over and it says, so this student that was interested, they're looking at business or political science or perhaps marketing. Those are the 3 different programs. And they're interested in student government and Greek life and perhaps athletics. So what happens is the email transforms itself. Now, Sarah has heard this joke, but I'm going to pull it out because it's one of my favorites. Not as cool as Optimus Prime or Bumblebee. It's not that kind of a transformer. Come on, there's like one good joke this whole thing. You have to laugh. Thank you. This is on video. You guys are killing me here. But what? You don't laugh because you've heard it. So what happens though is that this email sends targeted information to that prospective student around the things that they're interested in. So those of you, put your hand up again if you do emails right now. If you send out email marketing pieces, newsletters, whatever. How many of you send everything to everybody every time? How many of you, when you hit send, did you just send it to your broad prospect or client list? Okay. So what you're doing is you're saying, here it is. I hope you like it. Not I think you like it or I know you like it, but I hope so. I hope you find something in there that you like. And next month, here's another one. So we're just kind of throwing darts, closing our eyes and chucking them up there and seeing what happens. Okay? Because we're not doing targeted content. So the key to this is prospects will engage with you and ultimately convert to customers if your content is relevant to them and their interests, online, in social media, and in your email. Yes, ma'am.
So Pat, would another example of this personalized opt-in or content be like with the St. Louis Business Journal, where they ask you to check the box as to which things you're interested in to get a week, like Tech Flash?
Precisely. You know, that's, so what they're doing is instead of just saying, so what she's talking about is that for those who don't know or haven't seen, so with the Business Journal, they have a number of different digital releases that they put out there. Some of them come out daily, some of them come out weekly, and they're on a variety of different topics. Some are tech, some are business, some are entrepreneurial. They're all over the place. That's exactly what we're talking about. Because instead of just simply saying, sign up for my newsletter, and we're just going to kind of go, and whatever we want to talk about today is just going to go out there, by targeting and putting that precise information out there, it means that people are getting stuff that they want, that they're more likely to open because it's interesting and topical to them, and they're more likely to engage with it, which in their space means that folks are probably going to see the stuff that they're interested in and then follow up with or see those emails and actually click on some of the advertisers that are in there or become a subscriber.
And one time they sent me an email saying you haven't opened emails from this one for a long time.
So you're not want it anymore.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's asking people to opt out, and it's really funny because I've had that conversation with people probably 5 times in the last 2 weeks. You know, there was this great article that I read a couple months ago that the headline, which sort of caught my attention, was "Great job on growing your list. Now ask people to opt out." Yeah. Wait, what? What are you talking? Well, because as you're growing that list and that database, there are people that become stagnant. There are people that are no longer interested. And what you would ultimately rather have is a smaller engaged group than a larger disengaged group. Yes, sir.
If I send out 100 newsletters or 500 newsletters, the cost to me is exactly the same.
Correct.
So what does it matter? If maybe 2 weeks it's not pertinent, but the 3rd week they go, okay.
Could be. When was the last time you went to page 2 on your inbox?
My inbox? Would somebody sending me stuff?
In your email inbox, when was the last time you flipped past 1 through 50 or 1 through 100 on your inbox and clicked to the next page of your older emails? When was the last time you went back to that page, to stuff that came a week ago or 2 weeks ago? So people's inboxes, generally we live
I mean, I
on
can
page
look and
1.
see who's opened it.
Of course,
whatever,
we can do all of that tracking, but you're saying that, yes, it's just as easy for me to send
for them to opt out. I mean,
it is.
One click and boom, they're out of there. It's not this,
Correct.
oh, let's verify your email address. It's like, wait a minute, you sent it to me and you don't know what my email address is?
Sure. So with the content though, what you would rather have, sure, we could send it to 100,000 people, but if 99,400 of those people don't care about your content, does it matter? You know, eventually they might look at it, but where I was going with my question about your inbox, so my inbox, when I go to my Gmail, where I have all of my work emails and everything, it'll go from 1 to 100. I see 100 on my first page. About once a quarter, I go back to page 2, so numbers 101 to 200 to see the older emails. Because if I don't cover it on page 1, if I haven't dealt with it by then, it's gone. So yeah, somebody may in 3 weeks or 4 weeks go back and go, oh, how did I miss this? But the reality is, people are going to open and engage typically within the first week and more realistically within the first 3 days. And so, yeah, there might be a longevity to it, but really from a content standpoint, if you can put the right information in front of the right people, they're going to engage better and you're going to have the right conversations. Because yes, somebody can unsubscribe real quick and easy if they don't want it, but at some point they did. That's how they got on your mailing list. They talked to you, they signed themselves up, whatever it might be. So the reason they're leaving is because they no longer want what it is that you're sharing. And so it's to some degree that their situation may have changed, but it may also be that what you're putting out there is no longer relevant or pertinent to what they're looking for, that maybe it used to be. So if you can make sure that that content continues to stay in line with things that they're interested in, those are people that stay engaged, because once they unsubscribe, they're gone. You've missed that opportunity in that space that you have them in. Once they unfollow you on social media, whatever it might be, you've missed that opportunity and it's not one that you'll get back. And it's hard enough. You spent time and energy to get people onto that mailing list. So we don't want to lose those people now that we've got that opportunity. Yes, Steve?
And I've got probably a lot of people here have several email addresses they keep.
Sure.
And I try and do different tests and set what comes in from the school sometimes. And sometimes I'll get the same exact email, but it'll have a different title to it, subject line to it. It kind of pitches it differently. Is that part of that diversification? Nothing else?
It can be. So you're talking about things like split testing.
Yeah.
So split testing is a great thing. It's a great, easy way to give people different opportunities of engagement. We actually talk about, so I've helped a couple of nonprofits in the area run some of their donation campaigns. And one of the things that we often will do with those programs is maybe send out the first email with just sort of a one big consistent message. Here's the main message and here's a subject line. And for those people who don't open that message, we'll segment that group out and actually send them the same email but with a different subject line to maximize the number of opens that we ultimately get, because this organization or these organizations are looking for donations. They're trying to get those points of engagement. And so by sending out that original one, and if we didn't get a biter, if we didn't get somebody that the subject line drew them in, taking another run, but only taking another run at the people who didn't engage the first time. So yeah, being able to do split tests or make those different targets is a great way to do that, because you never know exactly what the right bite is, what that right hook is to bring somebody in. So testing and being able to do that sort of stuff is a great piece. Just kidding.
What do you consider to be a good percentage open rate?
Sure. So we get that question all the time. How many opens is enough opens, or what is relevant? It's all somewhat in the eyes of the beholder, and it depends very much so on a couple of main things. Number one, what kind of a list is it? Number two, what kind of content are you putting out there? And number three, what's the purpose? So I can tell you, so I send out a mailing to all of my existing customers, and I average about a 43% open rate on that. Now, every one of those people know me. I've met 90% of them, the ones that are in St. Louis, and those that aren't are people that I've talked to. So that's a pretty high open rate. But it's also a very concise and precise database. It's not a general newsletter that I'm sending to prospects and networking people. Generally, what we will tell people when it comes to opens is, if you can get into the teens, you're doing a pretty good job. If you can get into the upper teens to low 20s, you're doing a very good job. If you can get into the upper 20s, you're doing an excellent job. And if you clear 30 plus consistently, share tips with me. Okay? But I've also got clients that have membership databases that if they get below 70% open, they're disappointed, because the expectation is that people are opening those emails, and that's why they're sending them out. So it is somewhat in the eye of the beholder with all of that kind of stuff, but generally if you can consistently get into the 20s, you're doing a pretty good job on a normal sort of newsletter mailing that's out there. So, hand, yes, sir.
Can you maybe give some advice on how to keep your emails from going into spam or something? Or is there possibly, I hope I'm not getting ahead of this, but
No, you're fine. You're fine.
So possibly are there hyperlinks or something that I'm sending out that might trigger that to keep folks, where they'll be in their inbox and not in their spam?
Sarah's waiting to see how I answer this one.
It's our favorite question.
It is our second. Well, it's the second most often
Yes.
asked question that we probably get, other than how often should people. Well, actually, then we get the how often should I send it. There are some things that you can do, and there's some things that you can't do. The nice thing is, and actually, ironically, the answer to that question more and more now is actually this than anything else. So there are some things that are completely out of your control, and that's things that the email marketing platforms like the MarketVolt and other tools out there control themselves. And the ones that are good, the ones that are doing their job, will manage that part of it to make sure that those emails are at least doing the parts that they need to be doing. It used to be, back in the day, all capital letters put you in spam. Too many exclamation points put you in spam. The word Viagra or Russian women put you in spam. Okay? I think that actually still happens based on my spam folder. Especially all capital letters that say Viagra will put you in spam. Anymore, the algorithms have started to change. So the different server tools have had to start getting smarter because the spammers have gotten smarter. You know, for a little while there, was if it was an image-only mailing, it went to spam because the words that the spam filters were looking for, they decided that the spammers decided, well, if I put in a picture, it can't read it. So I'll just put a picture in there. So then the spam filters went, well, if it's just a picture, then we're going to make it, you know, it's garbage then. Well, it's sort of technology has caught up on a lot of that sort of stuff. But now what a lot of it looks at is things like engagement. And so that's where you as a sender have way more control now. Based on what you're sending, how people are engaging, if they're clicking, if they're opening. And it's a very loose thing. Also, we don't really know what the algorithm says. You know, I mean, I guess if you're Google and somebody over there knows the algorithm, but based on what we see, what's happening is so let's say you send an email to 100 people that are at Yahoo, and 90 of those people never open that message, and some of those mark it as spam. The next mailing that you send to the people at Yahoo, there's a tick higher chance or probability that it's going to go to spam.
And this is an answer to Bob's question too.
To some degree, yeah, to some degree. So, you know, but if 90 people all open it and a lot of those people click on it, the next time we send an email to those 100 people, there's a higher probability that you get the thumbs up instead of the thumbs down. Now, keep in mind the thumbs up and thumbs down is only a piece of the entire algorithm. There are other things that get to judge along the whole process there, but that is part of it. And the fun part that gets involved here now too is not only is it what the whole group did, but what I individually did with that email. Did I open it or click on it? Well, then I get an extra little thumbs up. Or if I didn't or deleted it without opening it, I get a little extra thumbs down for me versus everybody that's at Yahoo. So that's where this part of all of it is something that becomes a huge piece of what's happening with your emails. Because if you're putting content out there that's engaging, that's targeted, that people are interested in, guess what? They're going to open. And they're going to click, and they're going to be engaged with it. And so there's a higher probability moving forward, ongoing, that same thing is going to keep happening. You have a follow-up?
So it'd be safe to say that before we go out half-cocked, if you will, and let's do a little bit of research on that content. We're better to be more prepared with the content that we have before we start sending them out so that our percentages are higher in that regard.
Exactly, and it's one of the big things that we talk about, and it actually goes back to the previous piece that we talked about when it comes to that value add and that informative stuff. If all we're doing is putting pitches out there, if all we're doing is saying, hey, buy now, look what I'm selling, come work with me, people start to get they wear thin on that stuff. And that's where you start seeing people not opening it. I know the guys that I bought my last car from, I get emails from them. I know I'm going to get, one of 3 emails. They support a charity. So we'll sometimes open that email. They're going to try to sell me a new car. I don't need a new car. I'm still trying to kill the one that I have. And they're going to try to sell me service. That's it. There's nothing else that comes in those emails. There's no value. There's nothing else. So for me and that group of emails, the only one of those that I will open is the charity one. And even that, sometimes, because they've turned me off with everything else they sent me, because all they're trying to do is sell. There's nothing more that's in there for me. So if I'm not ready to buy something, and I don't need car service, there's nothing there. So if they start providing additional value, there's other information. I have 3 kids. If they start telling me things to do with the kids in the summer, trips that I can take, here's things that I need to be aware of on my car. I'm not a car guy. If you tell me how I can check my tires before the road trip, and these are 3 things that I can check on my car, well, that stuff I'm interested in. I might keep opening those emails. So exactly what you're talking about. If you spend just an extra couple of minutes thinking about the content that you're providing, the value that it's putting back, And then, and I'm going to use this as a perfect segue because otherwise I'm going to talk on this topic alone for till 7 o'clock. Where are we at here? All right. All right, number 3. I think I clicked twice, but so I'm gonna roll that into this part of it. So number 3, engage and convert prospects by tracking responses and delivering targeted follow-ups to segmented lists. So I'm actually going to use that example. So as a car dealership, I'm trying to sell cars and I'm trying to grow my service drive. You know, those are really my 2 primary goals. So if what I do is I put an article out there that talks about, 5 things that even the non-technical person can do to check their car before the road trip, and you send that out in June before everybody starts hitting the road for family vacations, there's going to be a good number of people that are going to click on that article. Now they're clicking because they're concerned about their vehicle. I want to make sure that my car is ready to go when I'm ready to take it on the road. Well, what I could start to do is I can track who engages, who clicks on that article in particular. And what I can do is I can send a follow-up email to the people who clicked, the people who were the most concerned about their car to read that article, that maybe says, you know what, here's a $19.99 oil change with a full vehicle inspection. What I just did was I put value-added information in my mailing. All right, I shared content. I'm not trying to sell anything with that article. All right, but what I'm doing is I'm selling my follow-up pitch to a targeted audience. That targeted audience is one that told me they were interested. They said, this is important to me. And I know that because they clicked and I tracked that and I can see that. And so I can send that follow-up message to that distinct group. And now that pitch is a more welcome pitch. Oh, you know what? That's awesome. Because I was just looking and I don't know what I'm doing, but I can take it in right now and there's a coupon right there that I can use. So now I'm pitching, but I'm pitching to the interested group. I'm working on that conversion by having the conversation with the right part of my database. Because not everybody in your database is ready to buy at the same time. We all wish they were. Heck, I'd love to be able to flip a switch and be like, I'm rich! Or everybody loves me. It doesn't. They don't. Just 90% of them. But to be able to know when those people are interested, and is equally important, what types of things they're interested in, that's huge as a person in sales and marketing. To be able to know the right people, to have the right conversations with them at the right time. I mean, think about, we talk about the old school Rolodex, and when, as a sales guy, so part of my job is business development. How often we have to sort of start at the top of the list and just start calling down the list. Here's 100 people, go. We talk about this in a networking scenario often, so I go to some chambers and different associations and events, and you walk into the room and you're like, God, who do I talk to? There's one that I go to that has over 300 people of it every month. All right, who do I talk to? Who is the person who's most interested here? Well, if we start to do some of these sorts of things, kind of picture this. You walked into a room of 300 people, and the ones who were most interested in having conversations with you all had red balloons that were tied to their belt loop and hung above their heads. Who would you go talk to?
The ones with the yellow balloons.
People with the yellow balloons. Sure, gotta throw me out. You'd go find those people, you'd seek them out, and you'd have those conversations. By looking at these sorts of things, by tracking these statistics, by seeing where people are engaging, we're finding out who they are, and we're finding out what they're interested in, so that we can have those right conversations with those folks. So don't send everything to everybody every time. Track to identify your best prospects and send targeted follow-ups to move them or convert them. Also, getting outside of just the email space, be aware of your likes and comments on social media. There's great opportunities that are there as well. Don't just post something and be like, it's there.
How do you integrate that into your email marketing?
Integrate the social media aspects of it?
Yeah, so you've got a bunch of people that are liking something.
Mm-hmm.
How do you build that in so that your next mailing is leveraging that?
I think part of it is figuring out what that content is about. What are the things that people are engaging around? And I mean, right off the bat, who's clicking.
So it's not really systemic where you could automatically tie it together. It's really...
Some tools allow it. It becomes a bit more of a complicated thing because not everybody follows you in both spaces, and there's different expectations in either space. Social media, there can be. I mean, if somebody's having a conversation and not just liking but commenting and things like that, you can start that conversation online. You can start that engagement point right there in Facebook, on Twitter, whatever it might be. But it's also something that you can take those types of content, and we actually recommend this among clients. It's not necessarily posting it on Facebook while sending it out in your email, but allowing the two things to play off of one another. You know, on your Facebook or on your Twitter account, talk about things that you're doing in email, and then encourage the people to follow you on your email to get more information. On your email, talk about things that you do.
When you, with MarketVolt, and I'm still learning about what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
When you.
Me too.
When you post your email,
Mhm.
is there a way that you can post it to your social media?
There is. There's a fairly easy mechanism to do so, but I personally advise clients against doing it. And here's why. And it sounds funny to say after some of the things I just talked about here, but here's why I recommend against just blindly posting and saying, here's my newsletter. There it is, go get it. Because a couple of things happen. Number one, we're now giving away our newsletter for free. Now that doesn't mean that you're charging people to get your newsletter. Maybe you are. If you are, awesome. But you're giving it away for free. Why do I have to sign up for the newsletter if you're just going to give it to me every month? So what we recommend to clients doing is somewhat what I just talked about here. Say, hey Facebook, hey Twitter, check out this cool article that we just posted or that we just shared in our newsletter. To get more stuff like this sent right to your inbox, join our mailing list. And so now what we're doing is we're leveraging this content in our newsletter across our social media and inviting people back in, because here's the other key component to that. Once I take it and post it, and it's out there on my social media, I lose all tracking. Because now it's just a web page that people are going to. And so all of the links, all of the who opens, all of that stuff is completely out the window. And so the added benefit of that comes from email, all of those different things that we just talked about in the last screen, all that goes completely out the window. So if we can bring them back into that conversation, it's a different layer. The other challenge that you run into, especially with the social media and what Facebook's done to us recently, they changed their algorithm. And so now, for those of us that have business pages, it used to be back when they said, everybody needs a business Facebook page, and everybody saw your posts. Now about 8% of your likes do. So if you have 1,000 followers, every post on average, if I do the math right, about 80 people, thank you, there's my other brain, and probably the better part of it. 80 people of those 1,000 likes that you have are actually probably seeing your content, which is still 80 people. And it might be a little more than that, it might be a little less, but they want you to pay to make sure it's more. Brilliant, I guess, but annoying. So by using all the resources at your disposal, it makes your overall marketing that much more effective because you're reaching people in a lot of different areas.
Pat, I've got a question about mobile
Yep.
that relates to mobile. So sometimes what we'll do is we have our primary content that we put out in email, but then we have some alternative content, just fun stuff or different things. They're not our content, but things that people might be interested in. And oftentimes the way that's handled is you have a large panel of content on the left that's our primary content, and a smaller panel on the right that's alternative things to click on. When you get into the mobile environment, however, there's a lot less real estate, and I think the recommendation is to use just a single panel for mobile. So then it seems like you're giving up the opportunity for those alternative pieces of content. How do you handle that in mobile?
So some of the nice things in what's happening from a mobile platform with email is we're starting to get more and more into, let's see, translate the word, I want to say convertible, mobile-friendly platforms, mobile-friendly design. And what actually happens in those cases is instead of having the multi-column, it'll go single column. So those people that are responsive, thank you, I knew there was a word that I was
We're using responsive in email?
Being able to use responsive in email so that here's a multi-column that when you view it on a desktop or a tablet and something that's a larger screen, we do. We can take, Steve's a MarketVolt client, he's got good questions. Being able to take those templates that render on those larger platforms, but when they render on a mobile phone, instead of being a 2-column, and all of a sudden they go vertical. So it does mean that secondary content is lower on the list, but it's still, now it's rendering and adjusting depending on how people
And it's
are
more
ultimately
device
viewing.
intelligent that way.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. All right, I'm gonna get rolling here. Where are we at? All right, I got 25 minutes to talk through 3. I can handle this, I think. All right. Convert sales more quickly by tracking engagement and identifying your best prospects. So I touched on this a little bit. Now I'll use an example at MarketVolt for you here. So we send out newsletters. We pretty consistently get these things out on a bi-weekly basis or so. And one of the things that we've started to include on there is talking about some of the additional services that we offer. Things like strategic consulting, things like some basic website design, some of that sort of stuff. Now, we're not pitching the heck out of it. We're not doing all that sort of stuff. But over in the column, we talk about professional services on occasion. And we put links through that talk, to read on our website some of those different components and things that we offer. Well, what we do is we track those clicks. And in tracking those clicks, we can figure out who those best prospects are so that we can reach out to those folks. Now, here's the wrong way to do that, all right, is to pick up the phone, especially if these are existing customers, but even for prospects. Hey, George is a client of ours. George, I saw that you clicked on the stuff about our websites. Is that something that you guys are interested in?
No, you
Click.
creeped
Yes.
me out.
No, that's really weird. Don't do that ever again. That's creepy. Big brother, NSA watching through the hole, that kind of stuff. You pick up the phone and you say, George, haven't talked with you in a little while, man. How are things going? Just wanted to touch base, see how everything was going. I know we do a lot of email stuff with you guys. I didn't know if you guys had any need around things like some of our strategic planning or our websites or any of that sort of stuff. Have you guys run any of those kind of needs at all lately? I know he clicked on websites. Did I just offer that conversation a much lower risk, easier to respond to? The door is open. All I have to do is just let myself in without being weird. And this comes from a guy who sold stuff door to door. All right? If you're weird, they're going to peek around the corner, around the curtain, and they're going to not ever open the door. Or worst case, they're going to open the door, and there's going to be a big honking Rottweiler hauling after you. Trust me, both of those suck. Okay? What you would much rather do is know who the people are that are interested in the $1,500 vacuum cleaner that you have to sell, and you just come in and start talking to them. All right? So being able, yes, I know. Thank you. I was a Kirby man for a while. So being able to do those sorts of things, having those conversations in low-risk environments, because that will help your conversions. It makes it an easier conversation to have because you know what you're asking for, you know what you're talking about, and you already know that you have a warm prospect. So in many businesses, though, and here's the other part of this, in many businesses, sales close with a meeting. All right, I'm not selling MarketVolt website design through an email. All right, somebody's not going to get that and go, oh, I'm in. All right, now, if Amazon's in the room, they get to get away with this. Yes, they can sell through an email, but for a lot of us, that's not going to happen. We have to do business face-to-face, or at least over the phone, and sometimes through a direct email where we have that exchange. But it's going to happen in that way. So email can help you identify who to have for a meeting. We can avoid that Rolodex, and we can go straight to the people that are our best prospects. We can go straight to the red balloons. Maximize. Maximize was the fourth thing. I don't know. It was on the list. Fourth. Thank you. I'm so glad somebody was paying attention. Maximize, drive repeat business by reaching out immediately to new customers and giving them a reason to return, buy again, or, and I need to put a comma on this, at least say thank you. So some of us have businesses where somebody might not use us again for 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, depending on what type of industry that you're in. Some of us, retail, restaurant, things like that, they can come back in a week or in a day, So depending on what industry you're in, this lends itself in different ways, and that's why I sort of add the comma, at least say thank you. How often do we thank our clients? How often do we say, thank you for doing business with us. I appreciate you working with me. Of all the options out there, of all the agencies, or of all the financial planners, of all the email tools, thanks for picking us. Thanks for being our client. Especially right when they're in the honeymoon stage. Thanks. I really appreciate you picking me, and while there might be some challenges early on because you're learning a new tool or whatever it might be, thank you for sticking with us, and that thank you can go a long way. Now, I'll use an example of one of our customers. So has everybody heard of Upper Limits? They're a pretty cool place if you haven't. They're a rock climbing gym that's indoors. So they've got a facility downtown, they've got one out in West County, and their original facility is where I actually started learning how to rock climb back 45 pounds ago. And that's up in Bloomington, and they're actually inside of 75-foot grain silos. They're awesome, and they have a 112-foot wall outside that you can also climb. Well, here's one of the cool things that they do, and they get to cheat a little. Their team over there, when you come in, you have to sign a digital waiver, and they typically collect email address. So they get to cheat. They've got that advantage where they're gathering those email addresses. But what happens is their management team, twice a week, will pull that list of first-time climbers. And they'll send them an email that says, thanks so much for coming to hang out with us, to climb at our gym for the first time. I'm going to send you a quick survey. Tell me what you thought. How was your experience? What can we do better? What did you like? You know, how did it go? And the people who take the survey, they get a free climbing pass to come back. All right? So it's finding out, it's checking in, it's saying thank you, and it's asking them to come back. All right? It gives people that opportunity. Now, like I said, in MarketVolt world, you're signing up with me for 12 months. I'm not asking you to come back, but I might ask for a referral. That's just as good. It's an opportunity. In fact, in some cases, better. You know, they're happy. They love us right now. Yes. Who else do you know? Use those opportunities. Maximize what that relationship can be by getting those people to come back in the door. You know, your chances of establishing customer loyalty increase dramatically if you can get them back in the door within the first 30 days. Now, again, in those situations where it fits, but you'd also increase that if you keep them happy over that initial sort of grace period, over that initial honeymoon period. Yes, sir?
Are you crossing over the line a little bit? You're taking care of your customers, you're maximizing sales. But this is real content out there when folks are talking about you in this case too, and the algorithms as well. I mean, isn't that just kind of a good practice when you consider right there that you're engaging customers, they're engaging you, folks are picking up on that.
Correct. So in the broader scheme, and I want to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying and framing it the right way. So what you're saying is as I'm reaching out to these new people, it's also helping me with other opens and deliveries and things like that in the future because we're having those points of engagement. Exactly. That's about third or fourth thing down the rung as far as what should be kind of the level of importance, but it certainly does have an impact. We have people that are opening these, and I can tell you Upper Limits has a great open rate and a tremendous click-through rate on this opening email, because this goes out no more than 3 days after they were in the gym. They send it out, I think, every Monday and every, I believe, Thursday is when these emails go out. So if you were there on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you get it on Monday. If you were there on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you get it on Thursday. I mean, you're not going 2 or 3 weeks. And then that last couple of days. So it's top of mind. Oh, thank you. We appreciate you coming. You know, all that sort of stuff. So it is a very quick and consistent touch from those folks. They do the same thing with birthday parties, you know, or events when people come in with scout groups and things like that and do some of the same. All right, on to number 6. Engage, convert, and maximize by using digital media to be human. And this was one, our president originally put this one together, and I had to tweak this a little bit because I wanted to add a little piece to this that I find very relevant. His piece is the bottom one, so I'm going to talk about my piece first. Understand that your customers are human as well. All right. So often what we run into is that we forget, whether you're B2B or B2C, we forget that the people that we're working with are also people too. You know, I read a really cool article, and I completely forget who it was by, but it talked about, especially with small businesses, when they start working with businesses that are larger than they are, lose their personality and kind of turn into sales robots. They get stuck into corporate speak, they lose what makes them unique, and go into sort of, this is the box that I have to fit in because I'm talking to this world that I don't necessarily feel comfortable with. Well, people do business with people. All right, so it's using digital media, using email, using social media, using your online website, but still having personality too. Making sure that that shines through. I can tell you when I send emails out to people, and I know distinctly this has gotten me business because people have told me. I had a client of mine that I found because I drove past their building on the way back to the office one day. I saw their sign on the building and I got back to the office and I looked up their marketing director and I sent her an email. And I finished that email, and this was last year around the playoffs. I sent her an email, and at the end of that email I said, "and go Cards," with an exclamation point. She told me the only reason she responded was because of that.
Really?
The only reason. She said, I get emails like that all the time. I'm a marketing director. The only reason that you heard back from me was because you said, "let's go Cards" at the end of that. All right? It's just how I play. You know, for some people that's harder. I use words like, "hey, let's chat, let's get together, let's go hang out, let's talk more about this stuff." All right? That's just, I'm a big 12-year-old, so it's easy for me to be able to pull out. But don't forget who you are as you're having these conversations. Now, that doesn't mean be a 12-year-old. You know, fart jokes aren't necessarily great in business exchanges or, you know, putting stuff out there. But I can tell you that in an email newsletter that I put together that I send out to customers, I make a point of every time I put that together, out of 6 to 8 pieces of content, I always included something fun. It might be a video. I know one of the last ones that I did, I had a video of Adam Wainwright and Trevor Rosenthal singing a song from Frozen. By the way, they stick to pitching. They were terrible. Hilarious. It was the second most clicked thing I put in my entire newsletter.
They're not perfect pitch.
They're not perfect pitch. That's, wow. Thank you, Sarah.
That's my
They
personality.
pitch perfect, but they don't have perfect pitch. So that was awful and terrible all at the same time. Thank you. You know, but having that kind of fun, you know, and being okay with it. You know, it's allowing, and some brands are really good at that. You know, you see entire brands that have that personality. So it's okay to do so. It's okay to get away from the generic corporate speak and actually have real conversations with real people on the other end. Now, the other side of this, mistakes can happen, right? You can screw up. Social media happens all the time. I mean, we've all seen those posts and things that go out there, and we've heard about them once they make CNN and all that kind of stuff. But I'll give a localized example. So we work with a large nonprofit in St. Louis. It has a mailing list of over 65,000 people. 88, thank you, way more than I thought. 88,000 people, and they're new to the email game. All right, they converted from a paper newsletter to email. And before I tell you what happened, I want to say one thing fairly clearly. It is really, really hard to accidentally send an email at MarketVolt. And most tools, but MarketVolt, you really, really have to try to send something out. They sent out an uncompleted email. It had filler text, it didn't look very pretty, it was not done. To 88,000 people, okay? And keep in mind, a lot of these people had only seen between 1 and 4 emails from them up to that point. So they called us and they went, holy crap, what have we done? 88,000 people. And our advice to them, when they said, what do we do next, was apologize. Wait, we have to send another one? Apologize. Say sorry. And so what they actually did, it was really cool. They said, in our haste to get information out to you about all the great things that we're doing, we accidentally hit send. And they apologized. And the best thing that came out of that was they got more positive feedback from that apology email than almost any contact that they'd had with any of these 88,000 people over the previous 2 years. They got people replying to that email saying, thank you for apologizing for sending an email to us. Think about that, you know, that the kind of power that something as simple as an apology, because people understand that we're human, you know. So being able to do that sort of stuff too, because we are, at least, unless you're a cyborg, all human.
Well, kind of similar story is seen at the Technology News just launched a Spanish version of the blog.
Mm-hmm.
When they sent out the first newsletter, all of the Spanish characters were replaced by garble. And so that created a whole buzz on the news because we were laughing like, ha ha ha, look, in Espanol cannot even type in Spanish. So then they apologize on Twitter, on Facebook, and they send the corrected newsletter with the proper characters. But that, you know, if they had sent it and they have not screwed up, it would have probably gone without so much media notice.
Yep.
So it kind of worked out in a way.
Sure, it can be something that actually generates positive buzz.
I'm not saying screw up.
Yeah, don't do it on purpose necessarily. But you can use an oops and convert it into a positive if you handle it in the right
And
way.
reach out to your media channels because there were people on Facebook talking about it, there were people on Twitter talking about it.
Fantastic. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing. All right, so I'm almost there. Maximize retaining customers. All right, by using email statistics, surveys, and social media comments to identify those with issues or that are at risk of leaving. So one of the things we've kind of gotten into the practice and habit of doing is taking a look at things like opt-outs on an email or checking comments that happen on our social media, our Facebook, our Twitter, things like that. And what we may do is if we see somebody that's a current customer that opts out, you know, now again, Amazon's not going to do this, but for us small, mid-sized businesses that know our clients a bit more so, we see somebody that's an existing customer that opts out, that might be a sign, you know, they don't want to get these things. Now, they might just not want to get these things. It could be something as simple as that, but it might be something that's worth putting a touch out there. Not to say, again, so why did you opt out of my newsletter? Okay, literally, I've had that happen once.
Really?
Why did you opt out? Because you're sending me garbage. Stop sending me garbage, I won't opt out. But the guy called me out. He called me and called me out. And I said, because you're not sending me anything that I find any value in. And I appreciate, that you reached out to me, but stop sending me crap. Which may happen. It may be that they just don't like what you're sending anymore or things like that. But if it's an existing customer, it could be a sign. It could be that they're starting to disengage from you, and that's the first opportunity that you may see. So keep an eye on those sorts of things. On your social media, if somebody's on there grumping, so a perfect example of this. So I was painting my daughter's room the other day. We were moving her and my son back and forth, and we changed the pink bedroom into the boys' bedroom and the green bedroom into the girls' bedroom, I think because we're dumb, rather than just keeping them where they were. So I had to paint a green bedroom pink, which doesn't usually work very well as somebody who has been a painter in her previous life. So we primed it, and then we bought paint that had primer in it also. So we primed, and then we went through and painted, and I could still see green.
Didn't use kills.
Hmm?
You didn't use kills.
Yes. We might, even the first
Oh,
round,
really?
it might have been kills, I don't remember. But I was very disappointed in the paint, because the paint was a paint and primer all in one, which in theory is supposed to give more effective
One
coverage and be one coat. Well, I'd already done primer, and then I did one coat, and it still didn't cover. I went on that company's Facebook page, and I posted, and I said, your paint kind of sucks. As a guy who used to be a painter, I was expecting way more out of what this paint would be, and I'm posting this on my Facebook page too, so that my friends know not to buy your paint, because I don't think it's very good. It took them 3 days to reply.
Wow.
And when they replied, they said, call our customer service line. That's the same reaction that I had. I was like, wait a minute, whoa, what? We have a conversation that could be started here, and all they did was say, here's our 800 number, call, they would love to talk to you about this. And I started looking on their page, and that's how they handle complaints. Every single person, I went through post after post of people that had done deck staining with the same company, and all of it was peeling off, and people are posting pictures, and all they say is, call our 800 number, call our 800 number.
Which takes you back to being human.
It happens, exactly. So find those opportunities. Use those opportunities to find who might be disengaging, or where those chances are to save face or to save a possible customer.
It really bugs me when there's a company that has a Facebook page that doesn't allow you to comment on it.
Yeah.
That just is like totally gutless.
Well, and what I look at it as is they're actually missing an opportunity. It is, it's poor decision making. I think information and articles and stuff that are in there that we think are pretty good. If you want those, I'm going to distribute those to anybody afterwards who would like to get them. Feel free to just throw a card at me up here on the desk or hand one off to me. I'll be happy to get that to you. We also have, and this is a list building technique, so feel free to steal it. We do our own e-newsletter. I sort of alluded to it earlier. And we're getting pretty diligent about making sure, and mostly because I'm kicking the crap out of our executives because of it, about making it not just MarketVolt. I want to make sure that we're putting that value, that we're practicing what we're preaching, and making sure that we're talking about marketing strategies, about marketing information, not always just email. So if you want to be included on that, pass your card up as well. If you want these other things, but you don't want to be on that newsletter, it goes out twice a month. We typically do it like the second Tuesday and the last Tuesday in theory. Sometimes it's a Monday, sometimes it's a Thursday. It depends on how smart we are any given week. If you don't want to get it, just write no on your card. That's fine. Again, I'd rather somebody get it that wants it than just start filling your inbox with something you don't want. Another thing I wanted to highlight, we do have a new webinar series that we kicked off about a month and a half ago that I'd like to invite you guys to come hang out at. Don't worry, you don't have to listen to me. You've gotten an hour of that, and probably your brains are rattling around with that. It's actually hosted by our president, a guy by the name of Tom Ruich, that does a lot of speaking in and around town. One of my favorite parts about this series, it's 5 and 25. It's only a 25-minute webinar. It's something that you can knock out real quick. We're not asking you to invest an hour with us. You can be in your pajamas at home. It's all online, which makes it easy. What we do is we cover 5 powerful marketing ideas in just 25 minutes. It's at 5and25.com, the numbers with the word N in between it there. We cover a variety of topics. Some things email specific, sometimes it's on B2B, B2C, nonprofit, kind of goes all over the place. So feel free to check that out and come join us with any of that stuff. And that's me. If there's anything that, do you want me to go back to that?
Yeah.
To get over? Uh-oh, wrong way. There we go. 5and25.com. And then that's me at the end here. If I can help with anything, if you've got questions about MarketVolt in particular, if you've got questions about email or any of the craziness that I just threw forth, feel free to give me a call. That goes directly to my desk. If I'm not sitting at my desk, it'll roll to my cell. Email goes right in my pocket. I'm happy to help in any way that I can with any questions that you might have. And the longer I stay here with you, the lesser the chance I have to put the kids to bed. So if you have questions now, feel free to hit me with them too. So thank you guys. I appreciate it very much.